Okay, so let me see if it's working now because I'm not quite sure if the recording, oh no, if the audio is really going on. Okay, so today we have the Ask Me Anything, which is when you ask me questions and I answer the questions that you ask me. I'm Ali, by the way, from PortugueseWithAli.com, which is the website whose logo you see there. And that's me. Hi. So I didn't really have any questions for today. I mean, I have some questions, but I collected the most common questions that my students ask and I brought them here for you because I think that in this way you can also see some of the common questions that you can find, you can encounter yourself in your studies. So the first point that we have here, let me just move to the next part. One student brought me this very interesting question, and the sentence was: Ele me disse que fosse para casa. Ele me disse que fosse para casa. And my student asked me very cleverly, by the way, it's a very good and valid question, like, Ele me disse que fosse para casa. Why the subjunctive here? Why do we have the subjunctive, right? And in this situation, when you say, for example, ele me disse que fosse para casa, what's the true meaning of that? Ele me disse que ele ia para casa, or ele me disse que eu deveria ir para casa? So, ele me disse que ele ia para casa translates as he told me that he was going home, or he was going to go home. And ele me disse que eu deveria ir para casa translates as he told me that I should go home. So what of those two meanings do we have here? And actually it's, um, let me just move it here. Ba-ba-ba-bum. Technology. Cha. Ha. So let me, oh, is it sharing? Yes, it is. Okay. So, oh, by the way, if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat below, or you also can send me questions that you might have, like, do you have questions? Let me just write them here. Okay. And have is only one V. Okay. So let me put it. Okay. Cheng. All right. So do you have question? Oh God. Questions. It's plural. Oh, do you have a question? That's also good. It works. So it's technology. It's the first time I'm doing this, and that's not really easy. I'm kidding. So the sentence ele me disse que fosse para casa translates as ele me disse que eu deveria ir para casa. And my student had that question, like, ele me disse que eu fosse. Why subjunctive? Because disse in this case doesn't really mean to say. It means to give an order. He told me to go home. Ele me disse que eu fosse para casa. And in this situation, because it's a verb that expresses an order, it means that you need the subjunctive. So here, for example, let's move to the next slide. Tchan. Ele me disse que eu deveria ir para casa. That's the right answer. And we have some other sentences, some other constructions that also mean that we are talking about orders here. So we have eu falei para você fazer isso. I told you to do that. Eu disse que você fizesse isso. I told you to do that. Same. And pay attention to the matching of the verbs or verb tenses. Eu disse que você fizesse isso. Eu falei para você fazer isso. Eu disse que você deveria fazer isso. E eu mandei você fazer isso. All of them express an order, but depending on the construction, you need the subjunctive or you don't need the subjunctive. Just keep them in mind. And sometimes the subjunctive shows. All right. So In the next slide, we have another question. Cheng. That's the beginning of many horror stories that people mock. It was a dark and stormy night, and in Portuguese you might say, but that might not be correct. Foi noite quando ele chegou. And does it make sense? Is it right? Foi noite quando ele chegou. Both here are the preterite, or as I like to say, the simple past. But it's not really right. It's not really the way you should say it in Portuguese. Especially because when you say foi, it's not really the tense that we use, the preterite. We're going to take a look at some constructions here. The right way to say it is era noite quando ele chegou. Era noite quando ele chegou. And whenever you have two actions happening in the past, and one action, not one action, but one of the parts describes the setting, for example. It was night, it was raining, it was hot. In this case, it's going always to be in the imperfect tense. Era, estava, fazia, things like that. It kind of sets the setting for you. And the next part, the concrete action that took place, goes with the simple past. Era noite quando ele chegou. But when you have things that you used to do in the past, you can say, quando eu era criança, gostava de brincar muito. Quando eu era criança, gostava de brincar muito. When I was a kid, I used to play a lot. Again, when I was a kid, that sets this, the setting that defines what I'm talking about. And gostava, it goes in the imperfect because it's a habit. So in English, some of my friends would say, I would wake up at 5, I would play every day, and I would do stuff like that. In this situation, we use the imperfect. It's not eu faria, but eu fazia. I would play, eu brincava, not eu brincaria. Then we have a third sentence. Again, a setting and a specific action. Conheci o Paulo enquanto estudava em Paris. I met Paulo while I was studying in Paris, or while I studied in Paris. Because we have while I studied in Paris, that's the setting. And I met this person, it was a specific situation. Fiz 2 viagens grandes quando morava na China. Fiz 2 viagens grandes quando morava na China. I made 2 big travels when I lived in China. So I lived in China is the setting, and the 2 trips were actions that were concluded in the past. So eu fiz. Tinha muita gente quando o acidente aconteceu. There was a lot of people when the accident happened. Tinha muita gente quando o acidente aconteceu. Okay? So in this situation, again, we have that, but we have a very funny sentence here. We have this third sentence. Let me just give it some focus. Conheci o Paulo enquanto estudava em Paris. You probably know that the verb conhecer means to know, but it also means to meet a person. However, in the past, it changes according to the construction. For example, if you use the imperfect conheci o Paulo, it means I knew Paulo. I knew him in the past. And when you say conheci o Paulo, the preterite or pretérito, conheci means I met. It changes. It's the same verb, but it changes. Eu não podia fazer nada. I couldn't do anything. And eu não pude fazer nada. When you use the preterite, it means that you tried, but you failed. Não pude fazer nada. I tried to do something, but I couldn't do anything. Same for eu queria ajudá-lo. I wanted to help him. Or I would like to help him, because eu queria is also the polite form for I like. I would like. But when you use the preterite, eu quis ajudá-lo, I wanted to try. No, I wanted to help him. I tried, but I failed to do so. I even tried. Whenever you have eu quis, there was some attempt in it, but something didn't really turn out the way the person wanted. And the last one, eu sabia disso. I knew this. Eu soube disso. I learned this. Like, I learned the fact. I got to know the fact. And in English, it's very hard for us in Brazil. If you say something like, I learned the news in English, that makes sense. But we, as Brazilians, we want to know instinctively. We want to say instinctively, uh, oh, I knew the news. It's not really I knew. We wanted it to say I learned the news. So depending on the form of the verb, it changes the meaning too. And that's another situation when you have to use either the preterite or the imperfect past tense. Okay. So, and one more question that my students usually have is, oh, not only one question, on another usage that my students usually ask about. It sounds like when people say, in my time, that this was like, um, whenever you have this, in my time it was better, you use the imperfect because you are making a comparison. And whenever you compare the past with the present, it's like it used to be like that. It's implied. You don't need to say. For example, in my time, kids studied, but it's a habit. They used to study. They did that. They don't do that anymore. So you're comparing, in this case, eles estudavam. As crianças estudavam, but não estudam mais. Okay, so in my time, it sounds like you're talking about 5 centuries ago. It's not really like that. And the last one, this is a common, not common question, but a common mistake. Do you say gostar or gostar de? Like, eu gosto sorvete, I like ice cream, or eu gosto sorvete. That's the same sentence. Because the right one would be eu gosto de sorvete. If you speak Spanish, you might want to say me gusta instead of or me gosta instead of eu gosto. And some verbs need prepositions. If you don't have them, you either change their meaning or they don't quite make sense. We have to be a little bit creative to guess what you're talking about. So, eu gosto de sorvete, that's the most common one. And whenever you say eu gosto and you say something else that you like, you always use G. It doesn't matter whether you like doing something or you like to see, you like this mobile phone, maybe something. You always say eu gosto de, você gosta de, eu gostaria de. Hmm? And as I said, I am not going to go over all the things that I have here for for the verb table because it's also on my website. After this stream finishes, I am going to send to readjust the how do I say? I am going to readjust the description. That's the word. That's hard. To feature also the link to the verbs, the most common verbs with the most common prepositions. It's really important. I have a slew of them here actually, and depending on what verb or what preposition you use with what verb, you have to. It has a different meaning. It's like in English, you say compensate for, and you have to use for, compensate someone for something, but you cannot say compensate by, can you? I don't think so. In Portuguese, for example, let's say acabar com means to put an end to something. Like, eu vou acabar com você. I'll kill you. Or acabar de, which means I just did something. Ah, eu acabei de comer. I just ate something. Eu acabei de comer. Of course, they have different meanings. Too many for us to talk about them here, but there will be a link for the main article there. If you have any questions, as always, you can ask. So, okay. And the last part here about this quick question and answer is this. Cheng, do you have questions? I'm going to keep them short so that you can follow everything. But and every Monday we'll have a new streaming for a new live streaming for this kind of question and answer. If you have a questions, you can write them on the comment section below, or you can send them directly to me if you're one of my students. If you're not, you can go to my website and become one, or you can go to my website and send me a message through the contact form, just a question, and it's going to be answered probably here in the next sending, in the next streaming. So I don't see any questions for now, which is not a problem. I hope this has been useful. If you have any questions, just send me a message. Thank you. Bye bye.